Okay, so whenever we start a discussion, whenever we see a discussion happening between pro Palestinians and the other side, the only argument that they come up these days is the October attack. Give us a piece of your mind on the October attack. What do you think about it?
October attack, if you wanna if you wanna summarize it in a short sentence, prison break, the victim finally slapping the oppressor. I like to give an example of Palestine as a woman was constantly abused, not by one man, but by a group of people. But that woman is brave and resilient. In Al-Aqsa flood, it stood up and it slapped its rapist. Slapped only, by the way. It didn't okay, we can say more than a slap because, Al-Aqsa flood on October the 7th, that was an intense attack from the Palestinian resistance. That's why the propaganda machine was very quick. You see, if we were talking about any two countries, would the mainstream media be recruited immediately to tell you, oh, that side has a right to defend itself and we condemn the other side? Would they tell you, oh, this is the most horrific massacre in history? Would they start using the Holocaust? Would they start telling you that the other side must surrender unconditionally? Would they start using propaganda to justify the upcoming genocide? Beheaded babies, raped women, all of that nonsense. That was debunked in Israel, by the way. The liars were exposed in Israeli media. Some of them who were stating that, oh, children were killed and raped. Why did they do all of that? We clearly had a plan here. Firstly, it didn't come out of nowhere. It's coming following decades of Zionist oppression. And Israel, with the genocide, proved exactly why October the 7th happened. Because after the genocide happened, people started to say, oh, October the 7th, that was nothing. Because that's what Israel does. Why did they have to add so much propaganda to what happened on October the 7th? October the 7th started off as a military operation. It was a huge failure for Israel. And then it expanded. But the Palestinian side, the Palestinian resistance told you, the spokesperson of Al-Qassam brigades, he came up with a statement just days after October the 7th saying, we're willing to immediately start a negotiation process and end the military operation and return your prisoners of war. Why? Because we took prisoners of war, because we have more than 6,000 hostages in Israeli dungeons. That's why, because we've been trying to negotiate with you for 9 years without any success. So we had to do something. And it's not like they didn't warn Israel, they did. But Israel didn't listen because they thought that they can pass a few billions to Hamas in Gaza and they would be pleased and they'd become another corrupt Palestinian authority similar to the one in the West Bank. But the Palestinian resistance in Gaza is looking for the greater picture, is looking for the historical rights of the Palestinian people, is looking to live in dignity, is looking to get the basic human rights that they deserve. And Israel was constantly ignoring that with the support of the world, because the world didn't have a problem with the system ongoing. And in relation to any debates that you talk about, for number one, certain debates, if you ask me personally, and everyone is entitled to his or her own opinion, certain debates with the Zionists are completely pointless, if you ask me. Why? Because you have a person 2 years into a full-blown genocide defending or denying the mass murder of children, of women, or even justifying it, supporting an ethno-state, supporting all of Israel's barbarism inside of the Gaza Strip, and completely taking everything out of context. Now, it's probably popular, online to have two people in a heated debate, but that's not in any way to try and reach the truth. That's just for one side to debunk what the other side is saying. And usually, of course, it's the Palestinian side or the pro-Palestinian side wiping the floor with every Zionist, because evidence is way too much for them to handle. As a matter of fact, even some Zionist loudmouths started to change tone now. Some presenters online, they started to slightly shift now and use the term genocide, for example, or war crimes, or mention that there are children being killed. My friend, children have been killed way before October the 7th, regularly, whether in the West Bank or Gaza, as if uh, as if they're numbers again. So if you see a debate online, yeah, it's popular, yeah, and it's cool for people to watch, but that's not a conversation or a debate that is intended to happen between two parties to try and reach the truth or to something better, some sort of solution. It's not that, and that's simply because it's been so evident now how far both sides are. And when we say both sides, if we talk about the Zionist side and the Palestinian side and the rest of the world, or anyone with an open a pair of open eyes, you see exactly what is happening. How can anyone come out now, 2 years after all of this, and justify what Israel is doing inside of the Gaza Strip, or deny the suffering of the Palestinian people? Who thinks that 2 years following a full-blown genocide, that the term anti-Semitism can be some sort of an excuse or something to even be used, when Israel is acting in the name of Judaism and murdering children in the name of Judaism? Who's harming the image of Judaism here? Me or Israel? Who's causing that? That's why you have more Jewish people speaking up, anti-Zionist conference in Vienna, trying to have a home for people who oppose Zionism, a real home, which is something very significant. We're too far out. And if you ask me, we are witnessing the death of Zionism. 10 years from now, things will be different. And the reason that Israel used this level of barbarity, and the reason why the Western establishment supported it, because they know it's heading towards the end, so we're giving them the final shot. Otherwise, it would have been in their interest to allow Israel to do that for the sake of Israel itself. Think about it. If Israel had an interest in preserving itself as a real, victim state, they could have used what happened on October the 7th and reach a deal very soon after, and still show the world that, look,
Wow.
we were victims,
Wow.
but then we had a deal, right? Right or not? They would have been the
Yep.
victims.
Yep.
And they would have shown the world that, look, oh my God, these Hamas are the bad guys and the Palestinians are the bad guys. They didn't. They didn't, and they continued. And to be fair, the two options were bad for them in the long run. But if they conceded initially, they would have bought themselves more time, because the public opinion wouldn't shift so much against them. And they view the public opinion as something very, very crucial. Why? Firstly, because they're going to have to live with the fact that there's a group of people here that have a level of fierceness and guts to conduct something like that against us. The other thing is, go all out, show your true colors, and end your legitimacy for good. Israel will not be recovering from this. Israel will never be able to recover from what it's conducted in the past 2 years. Whether we have a ceasefire tomorrow or in 2 weeks or in 2 years, if Netanyahu collapses and we have a government that talks about peace or what have you, Zionism is on its way out. And the sooner the people realize that, the merrier.